My fingers ached. 3 double shifts in 5 days had left me hollow, running on fumes and bad coffee. The last patient had walked out 20 minutes ago, a 7-year-old with a stutter whose mother couldn't afford proper therapy. I'd see him again next week. Pro bono. Like most of my caseload. I locked the front door of the clinic, the old deadbolt sticking like it always did. Queens at night had a particular quality to it. Not dangerous exactly, just tired. Working-class exhaustion painted on every face that passed under the streetlights. My people. The ones who needed help, but couldn't pay Manhattan prices for it. My phone buzzed as I shouldered my worn messenger bag. Carmen, my best friend and the nurse who kept my tiny practice from complete chaos. "Please don't tell me Mrs. Rodriguez is in labor," I said by way of greeting. She was 8 months pregnant, and insisted I coach her through breathing exercises, even though that was definitely not in my job description. Worse, Mount Sinai just called me looking for you. They need a speech therapist, pediatric case, emergency. I closed my eyes, leaning against the clinic door. Every muscle in my body screamed for my bed. My studio apartment with its lumpy futon and persistent radiator clank suddenly seemed like paradise. "Carmen, it's 9 at night. I'm dead on my feet. It's a kid, Elena. Trauma case. They specifically asked for someone who specializes in selective mutism." Guilt twisted in my chest. That was my specialty. The children who stopped speaking after witnessing something too terrible for words. I'd written my thesis on it. Lived it in some ways. After my parents died. Which hospital? Mount Sinai. VIP wing. They'll be waiting for you. VIP wing. That meant money. Maybe this one time, I'd actually get paid properly. Enough to cover this month's rent without choosing between groceries and electricity. On my way, the subway ride to Manhattan gave me time to pull myself together. I twisted my hair up into something resembling professional, checked my reflection in the dark window. 28 years old and I looked 40. Dark circles under my honey-colored eyes. But my hands were steady. That's what mattered. Mount Sinai's VIP entrance was a different world. Marble floors. Art on the walls. Security that looked more Secret Service than hospital rent-a-cop. A nurse in pristine scrubs met me at the elevator. "Dr. Moretti?" "Just Elena is fine. I'm a speech therapist, not a physician." She nodded, but something in her expression shifted. Pity. Concern. We rode to the 8th floor in silence. When the doors opened, I understood why. Men in black suits. Not hospital security. Private. 2 of them flanked a door at the end of the hall. Another stood near the nurse's station, his jacket tailored to conceal but not quite hide the bulk of a shoulder holster. "What kind of case is this?" I asked, my voice dropping low. The nurse wouldn't meet my eyes. "The child's father values privacy. We've had 3 specialists today. None of them could get through to the boy." She led me past the guards. They watched me with professional detachment. Assessing. Cataloging. Making me feel like a potential threat rather than help. Inside the room, medical equipment beeped softly. A child sat on the hospital bed, knees drawn to his chest, staring at nothing. 6 years old, maybe 7. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes the color of jade that looked decades older than they should. "He won't speak," a doctor said from the corner. Exhaustion lined his face too. "Won't interact. Physically, he's fine. Mentally?" He shrugged helplessly. I approached slowly, keeping my movements small. Non-threatening. The boy didn't react. Didn't even track my motion. "Can everyone leave?" I asked. The doctor hesitated. His father requested, "I can't work with an audience. Give me 30 minutes. They filed out. All except one guard who positioned himself outside the glass partition. Watching. Always watching. I sat on the floor. Not on the bed, not in a chair. On the cold linoleum, cross-legged like a kid myself. From my bag, I pulled out colored pencils and paper. Started drawing. Nothing specific. Just shapes. Colors. Movement. Minutes passed. The boy's eyes flickered toward me. Once. Twice. I didn't speak. Didn't push. Just drew. When his small hand reached out and took a green pencil, Something tight in my chest loosened. He drew a tree, bare branches, no leaves. Then, with a red pencil, a single spot of color at the base. Blood. A flower. I couldn't tell. But he was communicating. For the first time in who knows how long, this child was showing me his inner world. I added to his drawing. Gently. A bird on one branch. Still there, even in winter. Still present. His green eyes lifted to mine. The weight of old pain in that gaze made my breath catch. This boy had seen something. Witnessed horror no child should ever know. "You're safe," I whispered. Not a therapy technique. Just truth. Right now, in this moment, you're safe. His hand trembled, but he kept drawing. Behind the glass, I felt eyes on me. Not the guard. Someone else. The intensity of that stare raised goosebumps on my arms. But I didn't turn. Didn't break the fragile connection I'd built with this broken child. By the time I emerged, it was past 11. The doctor looked stunned. He engaged. Actually engaged. In 3 years, we've never... He shook his head. "His father wants to speak with you." "I need to..." "He insists." The parking garage was nearly empty. My ancient Honda Civic sat alone under a flickering light. I was fumbling for my keys, bone-tired and emotionally wrung out, when footsteps echoed behind me. "Dr. Moretti." I turned. The man from behind the glass. I knew without being told. The father. He was tall. 6'2", maybe 6'3". Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on Roman coins. Sharp jaw. Stronger features. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Green like his son's, but arctic. Calculating. The eyes of a man who saw everything and gave away nothing. "Just Elena," I managed, hating how my voice wavered. "You helped my son." Not a question. His voice was deep, accented with something Mediterranean. Italian, maybe. Each word precisely chosen. 3 years, 15 specialists. You accomplished in 1 hour what they couldn't in months. I got lucky. Sometimes kids respond to art therapy when traditional methods fail. He moved closer. Not threatening, but deliberate. The expensive fabric of his suit whispered with each step. This was a man accustomed to being obeyed. "I want to hire you. Exclusive contract. Name your price." The offer hung between us. Tempting. God, so tempting. My rent was overdue. The clinic barely broke even. I could pay off my student loans, maybe even afford real furniture. But something in his intensity set off warning bells. "I can't," I said. "I have other patients. Children who need me. I can't abandon them for one case, no matter how much you're offering." His expression didn't change. But something flickered in those cold eyes. Surprise? "Everyone has a price, Dr. Moretti." "Elena, and you're wrong." I turned toward my car. My hands shook as I tried to unlock it. He was still there, watching, waiting. "Your son needs therapy," I said without looking back. "Not an employee. He needs someone who chooses to help him, not someone on your payroll. I'll come back, but on my terms. I work with him at my clinic, my schedule. You don't buy me, understand?" Silence. Then, soft enough I almost missed it. "What's your name?" "I told you. Elena. Your full name." "Elena Moretti. 28 years old. Speech therapist. Licensed in New York. Specializing in childhood trauma and selective mutism." I finally got the door open. Met his eyes across the roof of my car. "Anything else you need to know before running a background check?" That almost smile again. "Everything about you, Elena Moretti. I'll know by morning." Creepy, but not surprising. "Good night, Mr. Bellavita. Adriano Bellavita." The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? The way he said it suggested people usually recognized it, reacted to it. I slid into my car. "Your son's name?" "Luca." "Luca," I repeated softer. "He's strong. Stronger than you probably realize. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., I'll come back. But we do this my way, or not at all." I drove away. In my rearview mirror, Adriano Bellavita stood under the parking garage lights, watching until I disappeared from view. My phone rang before I hit the highway. Unknown number. "You should know." His voice filled my car, dark and certain. "No one refuses me, Elena. No one walks away from Adriano Bellavita on their own terms. Well, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. I just did. See you tomorrow. Don't be late. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart raced. But somewhere under the fear, under the exhaustion, something else stirred. I'd just said no to the most dangerous man I'd ever met. And somehow, impossibly, I'd survived it. What I didn't know yet was that surviving him would be the easy part. It was wanting to stay that would nearly destroy me. The week passed like water finding cracks in stone, slow, relentless, changing everything it touched. 3 times a week, I drove from Queens to the Upper East Side, leaving behind my cramped clinic to enter Adriano Bellavita's fortress. Each visit felt like crossing into another country, one where men in dark suits watched from corners, where marble floors echoed with footsteps that never seemed to belong to anyone, where cameras tracked movement through hallways wide enough to hold my entire apartment. But none of that mattered once I sat across from Luca. The boy was 6 years old, I'd learned. 6 years of silence since the day his mother died. 6 years of specialists failing, of medications that dulled but never healed, of a father who ruled an empire but couldn't reach his own son. On my 3rd visit, something shifted. Luca sat by the window in what they called the therapy room, a converted library with floor-to-ceiling shelves and afternoon light that made dust motes dance like tiny spirits. His small hands moved across paper, creating shapes that weren't quite pictures, but weren't meaningless either. Trees without leaves, birds without wings, a house with no door. I didn't speak, just watched, just existed beside him in the quiet. Then his fingers reached toward a set of wooden blocks I'd brought. Not the expensive therapeutic toys his father had surely purchased, but simple painted cubes my grandmother had made me when I was young. They smelled like her attic, like memory. Luca stacked them, not randomly, but deliberately, building something only he could see. His lips moved, forming soundless words. Almost. So close. A throat cleared behind me. I turned to find a woman in her 50s standing in the doorway, silver threaded through her black hair, pulled back in a practical bun. Her face carried the kind of warmth that comes from years of caring for others. Laugh lines around dark eyes that assessed me with maternal precision. Forgive the interruption. Her accent was Italian, rich as olive oil. I am Sophia. I manage the household. And apparently, I also managed to interrupt important moments. But she was smiling. And more remarkably, Luca had turned to look at her. Actually looked, instead of staring through people like they were glass. He likes you, Sophia said quietly, moving into the room with practiced ease. In 3 years, I've never seen him build anything. He knocks things down, never builds. The implication settled heavy in my chest. This boy had watched his world collapse. Why would he construct anything when experience taught him it would only fall? Will you stay for dinner? Sophia asked. It wasn't really a question. Mr. Bellavita requests your presence, and I make osso buco that even the silent cannot resist. I should have refused. Should have maintained professional boundaries. But Luca's small hand had reached out to touch the hem of my sleeve. The first voluntary physical contact he'd initiated, and Sophia's eyes held a plea that transcended language. Yes, I heard myself say. I'll stay. The dining room could have hosted a state dinner. Crystal chandeliers, oil paintings of long-dead Bellavitas, a table that could seat 20 but was set for 4. Adriano sat at the head like a king holding court. Sergio, his second-in-command, occupied the seat to his right. A man in his mid-40s with silver at his temples and eyes that calculated everything. I was placed beside Luca, across from Sergio. Sophia appeared and disappeared like a ghost, bringing courses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dr. Moretti. Sergio's voice was smooth, educated. My employer speaks highly of your work. Unusual for him to speak highly of anyone. Just Elena, I corrected. And I'm just doing my job. Your job. Adriano finally spoke, his voice cutting through the pretense like a blade through silk. Is that what you call giving my son back his voice? He hasn't spoken yet, but he's trying. I saw him today. His lips moved. The intensity in his green eyes made my breath catch. This wasn't just a father's hope. This was something rawer, desperate. Luca ate his pasta slowly, occasionally glancing at me, checking if I was still there, if this was real. "Tell me," Adriano continued, fingers wrapped around a wine glass he hadn't drunk from. "What made you become a speech therapist?" The question felt like a test, like everything with him was a test. "My grandmother raised me," I said carefully, "after my parents died when I was 8. She had a stroke when I was 15. Lost her ability to speak. I watched therapists help her find words again. I wanted to give that gift to others." Something flickered across his face. Understanding? Empathy? It vanished too quickly to name. "Loss," he said, "is a language all its own." The weight of those words pressed against the elegant room. Sergio shifted uncomfortably. Sofia, bringing more wine, hesitated. "Luca lost his mother 3 years ago," Adriano continued, his gaze never leaving mine. "She died protecting him. Took a bullet meant for me. He watched her fall. Watched her." He stopped, jaw clenching. He hasn't spoken since. My throat tightened. I'd suspected trauma, but this level of violence, witnessed by a 3-year-old child. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Inadequate words, but all I had. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Sorry doesn't give my son his voice. His hand gripped the glass harder. "But you might. So tell me, Elena Moretti, what will it take to make you work exclusively for us? Name any price. I already told you. And I heard you. But circumstances change. Threats evolve. The people who killed my wife are still hunting. Anyone close to Luca becomes a target. Including you." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "What are you saying?" Sergio leaned forward. "What Mr. Bellavita is delicately suggesting is that your involvement with his son has attracted certain attention. The Solnsevskaya Bratva, Russian Mafia," Adriano cut in. "They've noticed you, your visits here, your clinic in Queens. They're watching, trying to understand if you're leverage, if you matter to me. I don't matter to you. I'm just his therapist." His green eyes burned. "They don't know that. And by the time they figure it out, they might have already decided you're useful." Fear coiled in my stomach, cold and alive. So what am I supposed to do? Stop seeing Luca? Abandon him when he's finally making progress? No. Adriano stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. "You stay close. You let me protect you. You stop pretending you can remain separate from this world. I never asked to be part of your world, but you are. The moment you walked into that hospital room, you became part of it." I pushed back from the table, anger overriding self-preservation. "This is insane. I'm calling the police." "And tell them what?" Sergio's voice was soft, almost kind. "That the Russian mob might be interested in you because you're treating a child? They'll laugh. And then you'll be alone, unprotected, with enemies you don't understand." Sofia appeared beside Luca, gently guiding him from the room. He looked back at me, those green eyes so like his father's, filled with confusion. I'd raised my voice, disrupted his peace. When the door closed, I faced Adriano again. "I can't live like this. Looking over my shoulder, being afraid. You're already afraid. I see it in how you check your rearview mirror, how you lock your car doors immediately. You've felt eyes on you for days, haven't you?" My silence confirmed it. "That black SUV 3 blocks from your clinic," he continued. "The man in the coffee shop who's there every time you stop for your morning caffeine. The clicks on your phone line. You've noticed, but told yourself it was paranoia. How do you—" "Because I put them there first. My protection, watching over you. Making sure the Bratva didn't get to you before I could warn you." The room spun. He'd been surveilling me, invading my privacy while claiming it was for my own good. "Get out," I whispered. "I need to leave. Now. Elena." "No. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me a prisoner in your war. I'm done." I grabbed my bag, heading for the door. He didn't stop me. Didn't chase. Just called after me with absolute certainty. "You'll be back. Because you care about Luca. And because you're smart enough to know that walking away from protection is walking toward danger." I drove home shaking. Every car behind me looked suspicious. Every shadow held threats. He'd poisoned my peace, made me see danger everywhere. But he'd also told me the truth. 3 days later, after lying awake every night, jumping at sounds, checking locks obsessively, I returned to his mansion. Not because he'd won, because Luca needed me. And because, terrifyingly, I was beginning to understand that in Adriano Bellavita's world, protection and possession were two sides of the same coin. I just hadn't decided yet which side was facing me. The piano keys felt cool beneath my fingertips, smooth ivory that had been played before. Sofia had mentioned it once belonged to Adriano's late wife. Now it sat in the corner of the therapy room, a ghost of memory draped in afternoon light. Luca stood near the window, small shoulders rigid with the tension he carried like armor. 10 days had passed since my first visit. 10 days of slow progress. Gestures, eye contact, the fragile architecture of trust being built one careful brick at a time. But no words. Not yet. "Do you like music?" I asked, knowing he wouldn't answer. Knowing the question wasn't meant for his voice, but for his heart. His eyes flickered toward the piano. Something shifted in his expression. Curiosity? Longing? I couldn't tell. I sat on the bench, positioning myself sideways so he could see my face. My fingers found middle C, pressed gently. The note hung in the air between us, pure and uncomplicated. Luca turned fully, watching. I played something simple, a lullaby my grandmother used to sing when nightmares chased me through childhood. The melody was older than memory, passed down through generations of Italian mothers soothing frightened children. Slowly, like a deer approaching water, Luca moved closer. His small hand reached out, hovering over the keys, not touching, just feeling the vibrations in the air. "Go ahead," I whispered. "You can't break it." His index finger pressed down. A single note joined mine. Then another. Not random. Deliberate. He was creating something. I adjusted my playing to follow his lead, building harmony around the notes he chose. His lips moved, forming soundless words. Almost. So desperately close. Then it happened. The syllable escaped like a bird freed from a cage. Barely audible. Fragile as spun glass. But there. Real. My hands froze on the keys. Luca's eyes went wide with shock, as if he'd surprised himself. His small body began to tremble. "It's okay," I said quickly, dropping to my knees in front of him. "You're okay." That was perfect. So perfect, Luca. Tears spilled down his cheeks. 3 years of silence breaking apart. He reached for me, and I pulled him close, feeling his tiny frame shake with sobs that had been trapped for too long. The door opened. I knew without looking who stood there. Adriano's presence filled the room like a storm front. But when I glanced up, his face held something I'd never seen before. Vulnerability. Raw and unguarded. He moved toward us slowly, as if afraid sudden movement might shatter the moment. Knelt beside me. His hand trembled as it touched his son's dark hair. "Luca," he breathed. Just the name. Just that prayer. And suddenly we were all together. Adriano's arms encircling both of us. His son crying. Me caught in the middle of something sacred and terrifying. I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth of his body, sense the barely controlled emotion radiating from him like heat from a furnace. "Thank you," he whispered against my hair. So quiet I almost missed it. "Thank you." The moment stretched. Seconds becoming minutes, becoming an eternity compressed into shared breath and pounding hearts. I should have pulled away, should have maintained professional distance. But Luca's small hand gripped my shirt, and Adriano's arm pressed against my shoulder, and everything felt simultaneously right and completely impossible. When Luca finally calmed, Sofia appeared with juice and cookies. She took him gently, whispering soothing Italian words. The door closed behind them, leaving Adriano and me alone in the sudden silence. "That was the first sound he's made," Adriano said, still on his knees, still close enough that I could count his eyelashes. "In 3 years. You gave him that. He gave it to himself. I just provided space. No. His hand lifted, almost touching my face before he caught himself. Stopped. The air between us crackled. You brought light into darkness. You brought hope into a house that had forgotten what that felt like. I stood quickly, needing distance, needing to remember who I was, what this was. Professional, therapeutic, nothing more. I should go. It's been a long session. Stay. One word. A command and a plea wrapped together. Mr. Bellavita. Adriano, please. After what we just shared, I think we've moved past formality. That's exactly why I need to leave. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Boundaries exist for a reason. I'm Luca's therapist. Nothing more. Aren't you? The question hung heavy, because he was right. Somewhere between colored pencils and piano keys, between silence and that first fragile sound, something had shifted. I wasn't just his therapist anymore. I was entangled. Tomorrow, I said, gathering my bag. Same time. We'll build on today's progress. I made it to the door before he spoke again. Will you have dinner with us tonight? Sophia's making pasta. Luca would like you there. That's not appropriate. Since when is sharing a meal inappropriate? Since you started looking at me like that. The words escaped before I could stop them. Adriano's eyes darkened. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides. Like what? His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Like you're the first thing that's made sense in 3 years? Like your sunlight after nothing but night? My back hit the door. He stopped inches away. Not touching. Not threatening. Just there. Overwhelming every sense. You're my son's therapist, he said, echoing my own thoughts. You're inappropriate. You're impossible. And I can't stop thinking about you. His hand lifted again. This time his fingers brushed my cheek. Feather light. There and gone. But the touch burned. Adriano. His phone erupted with harsh ringtone. He cursed in Italian, pulled it from his pocket. Sergio's name flashed on the screen. What? His voice turned cold. Professional. The mask slamming back into place. I couldn't hear Sergio's words, but I watched Adriano's expression change. Harden. Transform into something dangerous. I'm on my way. He ended the call. Looked at me with regret and fury warring in his eyes. I have to go. Don't leave. Wait here. I need to... Wait. Please. Then he was gone. I stood there trembling, confused, terrified by how much I'd wanted him to kiss me, by how close I'd been to letting him. 20 minutes later, I was driving back to Queens, my hands still shaking on the wheel. 2 days passed without word from him. 2 days of seeing my normal patients, trying to focus on work, jumping every time my phone rang. Then Carmen called at 2 a.m. Elena, get to the clinic. Now. I'd never heard her voice shake before. The storefront was destroyed, glass everywhere, graffiti in Russian covering the walls, equipment smashed, files scattered across the floor like murdered paper. Carmen stood in the wreckage, phone in hand, tears streaming down her face. The police just left, she said. They called it vandalism, random. But Elena? She held out her phone. This was spray painted on your office door. I looked at the photo. Russian words I didn't understand, but the meaning came through clear enough in the image beneath them. A target, with my name. This isn't random, Carmen whispered. Someone knows you. Someone sending a message. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I knew. Are you hurt? Adriano's voice was controlled fury. How did you... Are... you... hurt? No. But my clinic... I'm 10 minutes away. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. Wait for me. Adriano, what's happening? The Bratva found you. They're sending a message to me through you. Pack what you need from your apartment. You're not going back there. I'm not going anywhere with... This isn't negotiation, Elena. They know where you work, where you live. They know you matter to me, and that makes you a target. I don't matter to you. I'm just... If you were just my son's therapist, they wouldn't have touched your clinic. But you're more than that. And we both know it. Black SUVs appeared at the end of the street. 5 of them, moving in formation. You have a choice, Adriano said. Stay here, unprotected, and wait for them to decide you're worth taking. Or come with me. Let me keep you safe. Carmen gripped my arm. Who is that? Elena, what have you gotten into? The SUV stopped. Adriano stepped out of the lead vehicle, phone still at his ear. Even from a distance, he looked lethal. Purpose and power wrapped in an expensive suit. Choose, he said, but choose now. I looked at my destroyed clinic. My life's work scattered and broken. Thought about my empty apartment with its flimsy locks. About Luca's green eyes and that first fragile sound. About Russian words spray-painted like a death threat. If I come with you, I said quietly, I do it for Luca. Not for you. Whatever helps you sleep at night. And this is temporary. Just until it's safe. Of course. But something in his voice said he didn't believe that any more than I did. I ended the call. Told Carmen to go home. Promised I'd explain later. Then I walked toward Adriano Bellavita and the 5 black SUVs, carrying nothing but my purse and the knowledge that I'd just crossed a line I could never uncross. He opened the door for me, his hand at the small of my back as I climbed in. Possessive, protective, the boundaries between the two already blurring. You'll stay at the mansion, he said, sliding in beside me. Separate wing, total privacy, just until we neutralize the threat. How long will that take? His jaw clenched. As long as necessary. The SUV pulled away from my ruined clinic, from my old life, toward a mansion in the Upper East Side, where a 6-year-old boy was learning to speak again, and his father was teaching me what it felt like to be both protected and possessed. I watched Queens disappear in the rearview mirror, and wondered if I'd ever see it the same way again, or if Adriano Bellavita had just become both my salvation and my destruction, wrapped in the same dangerous package. Living under Adriano Bellavita's roof was like existing in 2 worlds simultaneously. The mansion breathed luxury through every marble surface, every oil painting, every chandelier that cost more than my yearly salary. But beneath the elegance, danger pulsed like a second heartbeat. Men in dark suits patrolled the perimeter. Cameras tracked movement through hallways. Every door had a guard, and I was trapped in the center of it all. 2 weeks had passed since the night my clinic was destroyed. 2 weeks of waking in silk sheets that felt like chains, of eating meals I couldn't taste, of working with Luca while his father watched from doorways with eyes that burned through my professional facade. My routine became ritual. Morning sessions with Luca using the equipment Adriano had installed. Afternoons conducting telemedicine appointments with my other patients through the laptop he'd provided. Evenings that stretched into uncomfortable dinners where Sophia's cooking was the only thing that kept the silence from suffocating us all. But Luca was progressing. That's what mattered. That's what I told myself every time I felt Adriano's gaze tracking my movements like a predator studying prey. The boy was making sounds now, humming during our art sessions, attempting syllables when we played piano together. His small hand would reach for mine more often, seeking contact, building trust. And every time he smiled, something in my chest cracked open just a little more. It was during one of those interminable dinners that everything shifted. Sophia had outdone herself. Ossobuco that fell off the bone, risotto that melted on the tongue, wine that probably cost more than my car. Luca sat beside me, close enough that his knee bumped mine under the table. Adriano faced us both, his green eyes moving between his son and me with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "Tell me about your family," he said suddenly. Not a request. Never a request with him. I set down my fork. There's not much to tell. Humor me. The weight of his attention pressed against me like a physical thing. Even Sophia paused in her serving, sensing the shift in air pressure. "My parents died when I was 8, I said finally. Car accident on the way home from my birthday party. My grandmother took me in, raised me in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. She had a stroke when I was 15. Lost her ability to speak for 2 years before she got it back. I traced the rim of my wine glass. That's why I became a speech therapist. To give others what she fought so hard to reclaim." Luca's small hand found mine under the table. Squeezed. The gesture undid me more than any words could. "And your grandmother?" Adriano's voice had softened. Barely perceptible, but I heard it. "Died 3 years ago. Heart attack. I was alone after that." "Not anymore." The words hung between us, loaded with meaning I wasn't ready to unpack. Sophia cleared her throat, suddenly very interested in removing plates that were still half full. "Luca, come," she said gently. "Bath time, Piccolo." The boy looked at me, those jade eyes questioning. I nodded, trying to smile. "Go ahead. I'll see you tomorrow." But he didn't move. His lips formed shapes, working toward something. Adriano leaned forward, every muscle tensing. Then it came, clear as a bell, perfect as prayer. "Papa." The single word detonated in the silence like a grenade. Adriano's face transformed. 3 years of control shattered in an instant. His hand reached across the table, trembling as it touched his son's dark hair. "Yes," he breathed. "I'm here. Papa's here." Luca said it again. "Papa," testing the word, tasting its shape, finding his voice after years of silence. I stood quickly, needing to give them space, needing air, needing distance from the raw emotion flooding the room. But Adriano rose too, crossed to me in 3 strides. His eyes blazed with something feral and grateful and desperate all at once. "You did this," he said. "You brought him back. He brought himself back. His hand lifted, cupped my face. His thumb traced my cheekbone with aching gentleness. The contact sent electricity racing down my spine. "Elena," he whispered. My name had never sounded like that before, like benediction and damnation wrapped together. He leaned in, slowly, giving me time to pull away, to stop this, to remember every reason why this was wrong. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at his mouth as it came closer, closer. His phone erupted with harsh sound. He froze, cursed viciously in Italian, pulled back just enough that I could think again. "Don't move," he ordered, voice rough. "This isn't finished." He stalked from the room, phone pressed to his ear. Barking orders I didn't understand. I sagged against the table, heart hammering. Sophia appeared beside me like a ghost. "That man," she said quietly, "has not looked at anyone the way he looks at you. Not since Natalia died. Be careful, Kara. His world is not kind to the things he loves." The warning should have scared me. Instead, it made something dangerous bloom in my chest. Hours later, I lay awake in my borrowed bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his hand on my face, heard my name in his voice. Footsteps in the hallway made me tense. A shadow passed under my door, paused. I held my breath, wondering if he would knock, if I would answer. But he moved on, and I told myself the disappointment twisting in my gut was relief. The next morning, everything changed again. I was working with Luca in the garden when Sergio appeared. His face was grim. He bent to whisper something to Adriano that made every line of his body go rigid. "Take Luca inside," Adriano said. Not to me. To Sophia, who appeared as if summoned. "What's happening?" I demanded. "Business. Nothing that concerns you." "Don't lie to me." His eyes flashed. "My office. Now." We faced each other across his massive desk. The room smelled of leather and power, and the cologne that haunted my dreams. "The Bratva have made their next move," he said. "They're targeting the orphanage where you volunteer, threatening to burn it down unless you're handed over to them." The floor tilted beneath me. "That's insane. There are children there. Innocent." "They don't care about innocence. They care about leverage. About hurting me through the people He stopped, jaw clenching. "Through the people connected to me. I have to turn myself in. I can't let them hurt those kids because of me." "Absolutely not. It's not your decision. The hell it isn't." He moved around the desk, loomed over me. "You think I'll let them take you? Use you? Destroy you to get to me? It's not about you. It's about innocent children who need protection more than I do. You don't understand what they'll do to you, Elena. The Bratva don't negotiate. They torture. They break. His voice cracked. "I can't. I won't lose someone else." The raw pain in his voice stopped my argument cold. That night, I made my decision. At 2 a.m., I packed a small bag, Left a note for Luca explaining I had to go help some children, that I'd come back when I could. I made it halfway down the hallway before strong hands caught my arms. Adriano spun me around. Fury and fear warred in his expression. Where the hell do you think you're going? To turn myself in, to save those kids. Over my dead body. It's not your choice. I shoved at his chest. Those children have no one else. I'm all they have. I won't let them burn because you can't control your enemies. And I won't let you die because I pulled you into this world. We were shouting now. Guards appeared at the end of the hall, but Adriano waved them off. You don't own me, I hissed. You don't get to decide what I do with my life. You're mine to protect whether you like it or not. I'm not yours. Aren't you? His voice dropped to something dangerous. Then why does your pulse race when I'm near? Why do you watch me like you're starving? Why didn't you pull away when I almost kissed you? Because I'm an idiot, I whispered. Because despite everything I know about you, every warning screaming in my head, I can't stop. He kissed me. No warning. No permission. Just his mouth claiming mine with desperate hunger. His hands cupped my face, holding me like something precious and fragile and his entirely. I should have fought. Should have pushed him away. Should have remembered every reason this was wrong. Instead, I kissed him back. My fingers tangled in his hair, his arm banded around my waist, pulling me flush against him. The kiss deepened, turned savage. 3 weeks of tension exploding between us like a bomb finally detonating. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. You're not going anywhere, he said. I'll handle the bratva. I'll protect those kids. But you stay here, where I can keep you safe. Adriano, please. The word cracked something in me. Please, Elena. Let me protect you. And God help me. I nodded. Because somewhere between colored pencils and that first desperate kiss, I'd stopped being just a therapist in his world. I'd become the thing he'd fight wars to keep. The morning after the kiss, I woke tangled in sheets that weren't mine, in a room that smelled like him. Cedar, an expensive cologne, and something uniquely Adriano that I couldn't name, but would recognize anywhere. We'd crossed every line, shattered every boundary. The night had been inevitable from the moment his lips first touched mine in that hallway. Desperation and need and 3 weeks of denial, combusting into something that left me trembling, and changed. Now, watching dawn paint patterns across unfamiliar walls, guilt settled in my chest like stones. I'd slept with the father of my patient. Violated every ethical standard I'd sworn to uphold. Become exactly what I'd promised myself I'd never be. Entangled. Compromised. Lost in a world that wasn't mine. But God. The way he'd looked at me. Like I was salvation and sin wrapped together. Like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to humanity. I dressed quickly, slipping back to my own room before anyone could see. Before Sophia's knowing eyes could confirm what my body already knew. Before Luca could sense the shift between his father and me. The guilt followed me through breakfast. Through my morning session with Luca, who was forming simple words now, testing sounds against his tongue with newfound confidence. Through lunch that I couldn't taste. You're troubled, Cara. Sophia appeared beside me in the garden where I'd hidden after Luca's nap. Her weathered hands carried a tray of espresso and biscotti. Your eyes, they carry weight today. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. She sat beside me, her presence maternal and undemanding. He's a good man, you know. Adriano. Despite what the world sees. Despite what he must do. Sophia. He hasn't smiled in 3 years. Hasn't looked at anyone with warmth since Natalia died. But you. She touched my hand gently. You brought light back to this house. To both of them. Don't let guilt steal what little happiness we're allowed in this dark world. Tears burned behind my eyes. I crossed lines I shouldn't have crossed. Lines drawn by people who've never loved someone impossible. Who've never had to choose between what's proper and what's necessary. Her accent thickened with emotion. That boy needs you. This house needs you. And Adriano. He needs you most of all, even if he doesn't know how to say it. Later that afternoon, during free playtime, Luca brought me a drawing. His small hands had worked crayon across paper with deliberate care. 3 figures. A tall man with dark hair, a small boy, and a woman with honey-colored hair between them, holding both their hands. Familia, he whispered. Family. One of his new words, practiced during our Italian lessons. My throat closed. It's beautiful, Luca. He pointed at me. Then at the drawing. His green eyes held such hope it shattered something inside me. This child who'd lost his mother was claiming me as something more than his therapist. Building a family in his imagination because reality had stolen his. I held him close, feeling the weight of responsibility and love and terror mixed together. That night, I heard voices from Adriano's study. Low, urgent. The kind of conversation that meant business. The dangerous kind. I knew I should walk away, should respect his privacy, should maintain whatever distance we had left. Instead, I moved closer. Pressed my ear against the heavy door. Hit them before they hit the orphanage. Adriano's voice was ice. I want Victor Morozov eliminated. No warnings, no negotiations. We end this. That's war. Sergio's voice carried caution. Total war with the Bratva. Are you certain she's worth... Don't finish that sentence. Fury vibrated through every word. Elena is not up for discussion. The orphanage is not negotiable. We strike first. Hard enough that they never threaten mine again. The men are ready. But Adriano, this could cost... I don't care what it costs. Make the arrangements. Footsteps approached the door. I fled down the hallway, heart hammering, mind racing with what I'd heard. He was going to war, starting a conflict that could kill dozens, all because I'd become someone he considered his to protect. When he found me in the library an hour later, I was ready. You can't do this, I said, without preamble. His expression shuddered. You were listening. You're starting a war because of me. Because of threats against an orphanage. People will die, Adriano. How many? 10? 20? How much blood is acceptable to you? However much it takes to keep you safe. That's insane. You can't just... Killing people isn't the answer to every problem. In my world, it's often the only answer. He moved closer, his intensity filling the space between us. You want me to negotiate? To show mercy to men who threatened to burn children alive unless I handed you over? To trust that they'll honor any agreement we make? I want you to find another way. There isn't one. His control cracked. This is what I am, Elena. This is my world. Violence. Power. Decisions that would keep you awake at night. I've killed men for far less than threatening you. And I'll do it again without hesitation. Then what am I doing here? My voice broke. How can I love someone who solves problems with murder? How can I look at Luca and tell him his father is a good man when I know what you're capable of? The word hung between us. Love. I'd said it without meaning to. Without permission from my logical brain that screamed this was temporary. Impossible. Wrong. You love me? His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I don't want to. God knows I've tried not to. But yes, I love you, and I hate myself for it. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious he was terrified of losing. Then let me protect you the only way I know how. He breathed against my lips. Let me eliminate this threat so you can sleep without fear. So Luca can keep his therapist. So I can keep... He stopped, jaw clenching. Keep what? The first thing that's mattered to me since Natalia died. The confession broke something in both of us. We didn't make it back to his room that night either. The library became our sanctuary, our battlefield. The place where love and violence and impossible choices collided. 3 days later, he left in the pre-dawn darkness. I watched from my window as black SUVs lined up like soldiers, as he slid into the lead vehicle without looking back. Luca found me there at sunrise, my forehead pressed against cold glass. Papa? His voice was small. Worried. He'll be back, I promised, pulling him close. Your papa always comes back. But I wasn't sure if I believed it. The hours stretched into torture. Luca sensed my tension, growing quiet again, retreating into himself the way he had before I arrived. Sophia moved through the house like a ghost, lighting candles in the chapel I didn't know existed. It was 4 a.m. when headlights finally swept the driveway. I ran, downstairs, through hallways, out into the cold night air. He emerged from the SUV, and my breath stopped. Blood. So much blood. His white shirt was ruined with it. His face pale beneath Mediterranean coloring. "I'm fine," he said before I could speak. "It's not all mine." Sergio appeared behind him. "Get him inside. I need her to stop looking at me like that." Adriano interrupted. His eyes locked on mine, like she's afraid of me. "I'm not afraid," I whispered. "I'm terrified. But not of you. For you." Inside, in his private bathroom, I played nurse, cleaning cuts, bandaging wounds. A deep gash on his forearm that should have had stitches. Bruised ribs that made him hiss when I touched them. "It's done," he said as I worked. "Viktor Morozov is dead. The threat is eliminated. You're safe now." My hands shook as I wrapped gauze around his arm. "How many? Don't ask questions you don't want answered. How many men died tonight because of me? None of them died because of you." He caught my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "They died because they threatened innocence. Because they chose this life. Because in war, there are casualties. But not you. Never you." Tears fell despite my attempts to stop them. He wiped them away with bloody knuckles. "I love you," I whispered, "and it terrifies me. Because loving you means accepting this. Accepting violence and danger and a world I don't understand. Then don't accept it." His voice was rough, broken. "Walk away. Take the out I'm giving you. Luca will survive. Sophia will find him another therapist. And you can go back to your safe life in Queens and forget any of this happened. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. What's best for you is... Don't tell me what's best for me." I gripped his wounded arm harder than necessary. "I'm here. I'm staying. Because I love you. Because Luca needs me. Because despite every logical reason to run, I can't imagine being anywhere else." Something shifted in his expression. Relief and pain and desperate hope mixing together. "Then stay," he breathed. "Stay and let me love you back. Let me build something that isn't built on violence. Let me try to be the man you deserve instead of the monster I've become." I kissed him, tasted blood and promises and impossible futures on his lips. "You're not a monster," I whispered. "You're just a man trying to protect what's his. And whether I like it or not, I'm his now too. Welcome to my hell," his eyes said. "Where loving someone means accepting their darkness. And God help me, I was ready to burn." Time moved differently in the aftermath of violence. 4 weeks stretched like years, each day bleeding into the next as I watched Adriano heal from wounds that should have killed him. The first week, he barely moved. Fever ravaged his body from an infection the doctors hadn't caught initially. I sat beside his bed, changing bandages, forcing him to drink water, listening to him mutter in Italian through fever dreams that made him vulnerable in ways he'd never allow when conscious. Luca understood something had happened. His father's absence from their nightly routine left gaps the boy filled by clinging to me. He slept in my room more nights than not, his small body curled against mine, seeking comfort I desperately tried to provide while my own fear threatened to drown me. "Mama Elena," he whispered one night. Not a question, a claim, a need. The first time he'd called me that, and it shattered every defense I had left. "I'm here, sweetheart," I breathed, holding him tighter. "I'm not going anywhere." By the second week, Adriano was sitting up, arguing with doctors, demanding to work from bed. Sergio brought files that I promptly stole, earning glares that would have terrified me months ago, but now just made me stubborn. "You need rest, not business," I told him, hiding his laptop. "I need to ensure you're protected," he countered, trying to reach past me. The movement made him hiss with pain. "I'm protected. You have a small army outside. Now lie down before you tear your stitches." Something in his expression softened. "When did you become so bossy? When you became so impossible?" His hand caught mine, thumb tracing circles on my wrist. "During the operation, when everything went wrong, all I could think about was getting back to you. To Luca. I couldn't die because I hadn't told you." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Told me what?" "That I'm planning something. A surprise." But you have to be patient. I hate surprises. You'll love this one." His green eyes held secrets and promises. "Trust me." The third week brought color back to his face. He moved through the house like a caged predator, restless and healing. Luca started speaking in full sentences now, his vocabulary exploding with confidence. The boys' laughter echoed through hallways that had known only silence for years. "Papa," Luca said one afternoon, his hand in mine, "Mama Elena teaches me new words every day." I froze. So did Adriano. The casual way Luca claimed me as mother hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. "Does she?" Adriano's voice was careful, controlled, but his eyes burned. "And what do you think about that?" "I love Mama Elena." Simple. Certain. The truth of a 6-year-old who didn't understand complications. Adriano's gaze locked on mine. So do I. The words stole my breath. We'd said it before, in moments of desperation and passion. But this was different. This was in front of his son. This was a declaration with witnesses. Week 4 arrived with autumn colors painting the estate in gold and red. Adriano was fully healed, though he still favored his left side when he thought I wasn't watching. He'd been secretive all morning, disappearing with Sergio, returning with a smile that made my stomach flip. "Get dressed," he told me after lunch. "Something nice. We're going out." "Out? Adriano, I haven't left this house in—" "I know. Which is why you need this." The car ride was a mystery. Blindfold optional, he'd joked, but I refused. I needed to see where we were going. Needed the illusion of control, even as everything spiraled beyond my grasp. We pulled up to my old clinic in Queens. Except it wasn't my old clinic anymore. The building had been completely renovated. New windows. Fresh paint. A sign that made tears blur my vision. Moretti Center for Pediatric Speech Therapy. "What did you do?" I whispered. "Come inside." The interior was unrecognizable. State-of-the-art equipment filled therapy rooms I'd only dreamed of. Toys organized by developmental stage. Technology that cost more than I'd make in 10 years. An office with my name on the door. And staff. 5 speech therapists introduced themselves, all highly qualified, all ready to work under my direction. "I don't understand," I managed, overwhelmed and dizzy. Adriano guided me to the office, closing the door. From his jacket, he produced a folder. Legal documents, property deeds, all in my name. "It's yours," he said quietly. The building, the equipment, the staff salaries, all covered by a trust I established. "You can help hundreds of children now, not just the few you were struggling to see. Why would you? This must have cost millions. You wanted to help people. I wanted to give you the means to do it. The building purchase started the day after the Bratva attacked. I wanted you to have something that was yours, untouchable, protected." My hands shook as I held the deeds. "Adriano, this is too much. It's not enough. It'll never be enough for what you've given me. Given Luca." He knelt then, actually knelt before me, pulling a small box from his pocket. Time stopped. "I know this is fast," he said, voice rough with emotion. "I know you deserve better than a man with blood on his hands. But Elena, you brought my son back to life. You brought me back to life. And I can't imagine existing in a world where you're not mine." The ring was perfect. A single diamond, elegant and simple, exactly what I would have chosen. "Marry me," he continued. "Not because of protection or convenience or proximity. Marry me because I love you with everything I am. Because Luca needs a mother. Because I need you more than my next breath." Yes, the word came without hesitation. Without fear. Just absolute certainty. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto my finger, then stood, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like promises and futures, and everything we'd fought to build together. "I love you," I breathed against his lips. "Even when I shouldn't. Even when it's impossible. I love you. Nothing about us has been possible from the start. Why start being logical now?" We laughed. Actually laughed in the middle of my new clinic, surrounded by dreams made real by a man who'd killed to protect them. That night, back at the mansion, Luca's shriek of joy when he saw my ring could probably be heard in Manhattan. Sophia cried. Sergio actually smiled, and for one perfect moment, everything felt like it might actually work. But later, after Luca slept and celebrations faded, I found Adriano on the terrace. His shoulders were tense, his jaw tight. What's wrong? Sergio received intelligence tonight. Victor Morozov had a nephew, Alexei. He's been quiet since his uncle died, but our sources say he's regrouping, building his own faction. Cold dread settled in my stomach. You think he'll come after us? I think men like Alexei live for vendetta. His uncle's death needs answering in their world. He turned to me, pulling me close. But tonight was perfect. You said yes. That's all that matters. We'll deal with threats when they come. Should we wait? Postpone the wedding until... No. His voice was steel. We move forward. We build our life. We don't let fear win. I nodded against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, trying to memorize this feeling, this moment of peace before the next storm. Sophia's words from weeks ago echoed in my mind. In our world, we never know how long happiness will last, so I held him tighter, wore his ring with pride, and chose to believe that love could survive anything, even when darkness waited in the wings, patient and hungry, counting down the moments until it could strike. Wedding preparations consumed the next 2 weeks like a fever. Sophia transformed the mansion into something from a dream. White roses everywhere, strings of lights that turned evening into magic. A chapel on the estate I'd never noticed, decorated with centuries of Bella Vita history. But beneath the beauty, I felt the weight of watching eyes. Security doubled. Guards I didn't recognize appeared at every corner, and Adriano's tension grew with each passing day, coiling tighter like a spring about to snap. I'd started going to the clinic during preparations, 2, sometimes 3 times a week to meet my new staff, review treatment protocols, familiarize myself with equipment that still felt too expensive to touch. The therapists were brilliant, experienced, compassionate, eager to help the children who needed us most. Luca came with me sometimes, fascinated by the sensory room with its bubble tubes and fiber optic lights. He'd talk to other children now, his vocabulary expanding daily, his confidence blooming. Watching him help a younger child learn to form sounds made my heart swell with pride. "Mama Elena," he said one afternoon, tugging my sleeve. "When you marry Papa, I get to call you just Mama." I knelt beside him, throat tight. "If you want to, sweetheart, I'd be honored." "Good." He hugged me fiercely. "Because you're my mama now. The best mama." The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Nerves and excitement and something darker churned in my stomach. I found Adriano on the terrace where we'd first really talked, staring at the city lights below. Second thoughts. His voice carried forced lightness. "About marrying you?" "Never." I moved beside him. "But you've been tense all week. What aren't you telling me?" His jaw clenched, the mask he wore so well cracking slightly. "There are things I've kept from you, to protect you, to let you have these weeks of happiness without fear." Ice formed in my veins. "What things?" He turned, capturing my hands in his. "Alexei Morozov, Victor's nephew. He's been quiet since his uncle died, but my intelligence says he's rebuilding, gathering the remnants of the Bratva, and he's sworn vendetta. Why didn't you tell me?" I pulled back, betrayal sharp in my chest. "Because you deserve to plan our wedding without that shadow. Because I wanted to give you something pure, before dragging you deeper into my world." His green eyes held regret and determination. "But I promised you transparency. So I'm telling you now before we say vows. Alexei is out there. He's dangerous. And marrying me puts an even bigger target on your back. You're telling me this now? Hours before our wedding? I'm giving you an out. One last chance to walk away before..." I kissed him. Hard, silencing the doubt in his voice with the certainty in my heart. "I'm not walking away." I breathed against his lips. "Tomorrow I become your wife. We face Alexei together. We face everything together. That's what marriage means." Relief and love flooded his expression. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me now." The wedding day dawned perfect and terrifying. Sophia helped me dress in lace and silk that made me feel like a bride from old Italian paintings. Carmen flew in as my only guest, crying the moment she saw me. "You look like a princess," she whispered, fixing my veil. "Are you sure about this?" "About him? More sure than I've been about anything." The chapel held maybe 30 people. Adriano's men, looking uncomfortable in formal wear. Sophia, beaming with maternal pride. Sergio, actually smiling. And Luca, in a tiny suit, holding our rings with the seriousness of someone entrusted with the world's most important task. Then I saw Adriano at the altar, and nothing else mattered. He wore black, as always, but the raw emotion on his face as I walked toward him made him look vulnerable and powerful simultaneously. When I reached him, his hand trembled, taking mine. "You came," he whispered, as if he doubted until this moment. Always. The ceremony blurred. Words in Italian and English. Vows we'd written ourselves. His promising to protect but never cage me. Mine promising to love him despite the darkness we'd have to navigate together. Luca's clear voice saying, "I give Mama and Papa these rings," made everyone laugh through tears. Then Adriano kissed me as his wife, and the world reduced to that single point of connection. His, mine, ours. The reception was intimate. Dinner on the terrace under stars and lights. Music that made me think of my grandmother's kitchen. Luca dancing between us, giggling as Adriano swung him in circles. I'd never been happier. Never felt more complete. Then Sergio appeared, phone pressed to his ear, face grim. He pulled Adriano aside, and I watched my husband's expression darken with each whispered word. When he returned, his smile didn't reach his eyes. But he held me closer during our first dance, as if memorizing the feel of me in his arms. "What's wrong?" I murmured against his shoulder. "Nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. Tonight is ours." Hours later, finally alone in our bedroom, he made love to me like a man drowning and I was air itself. Reverent and desperate and consuming. "I love you," he breathed against my neck. "More than I thought possible. More than is probably safe." "Good," I whispered back. Because safe was never what we were about. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight painted gold across rumpled sheets, and bodies still tangled together. I could have stayed there forever. But Adriano was already awake. Tension radiating from him despite the intimacy of our position. "Tell me," I said quietly. "Whatever Sergio told you last night. Tell me now." He reached for his phone on the nightstand, pulled up a photo that made my blood freeze. Me, at the clinic. Recent. From this week. With a rifle scope crosshair painted over my face in red. On the back, a message in Russian that Adriano translated. "Your happiness has a price. A.M. Alexei sent this during our reception," Adriano said, voice carefully controlled. "He knows about the clinic. About our wedding. He's watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. I should have been terrified, should have broken down. But something harder had formed in me over these months. So what do we do?" His eyes widened slightly. "You're not afraid?" "I'm terrified. But I'm also your wife now." I knew what I was signing up for. I took the phone, studied the image of myself marked for death. I have patients who need me. Children counting on me. I won't let Alexei Morozov steal that. "Elena, he's threatened your life. And you'll protect me. We'll have security. We'll be careful. But I won't hide." I met his gaze, letting him see my resolve. "You didn't marry a woman who breaks at the first sign of danger. You married a woman who grew up in Brooklyn, who rebuilt her life from nothing. I'm stronger than he thinks." Pride and worry warred in his expression. "You'll have maximum security at the clinic. 4 guards minimum. You don't go anywhere without protection." "Agreed. And you follow every protocol I establish. No arguments." "I'll follow reasonable protocols," I countered. "But I won't become a prisoner in my own life." He pulled me close, face buried in my hair. "Your courage is going to give me a heart attack. Then I guess you'll need me to perform CPR." Despite everything, he laughed. Actually laughed. "How did I survive before you? You didn't. You just existed. Now you live." Those words meant to comfort, seemed to shake something loose in him. He kissed me again. Slower this time, claiming and grateful and terrified all at once. The next weeks would test everything we'd built. Alexei lurked in shadows, patient and dangerous. Security became oppressive but necessary. Every trip to the clinic was planned military precise. But I kept working, kept helping children find their voices, kept building the life Adriano had given me the means to create. And at night, I came home to my husband and son, to family dinners where Luca chattered about his day, to Sophia's knowing smiles, to a love that had bloomed in the most impossible soil. "Do you regret it?" Adriano asked one night, holding me as we watched Luca sleep. Marrying into this world, I thought about my destroyed clinic in Queens, about Russian threats and armed guards, and living under constant surveillance, about ethics I'd compromised and lines I'd crossed. Then I thought about Luca calling me Mama, about Adriano's rare smiles, about children learning to speak in a clinic that bore my name. "Not for a single second," I whispered. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be, even if danger waited in the wings, even if our happiness had a price tag attached, because some loves were worth fighting for, worth dying for." And Adriano Bellavita had become mine. The clinic had become routine again, almost normal, if you could call normal having 4 armed guards rotating shifts outside a children's therapy center. A week had passed since the wedding, and I'd settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Morning sessions, lunch with staff, afternoon appointments, home to Luca and Adriano by dinner. Luca stayed at the mansion now during my work hours. His father's orders non-negotiable. Sophia kept him entertained with cooking lessons and Italian stories, building a bond that warmed something deep in my chest. My son was safe, protected. That's what mattered. The little girl appeared on a Tuesday afternoon. 8 years old, dark hair, haunted eyes that reminded me too much of Luca 3 months ago. The social worker introduced her as Anya, a Russian orphan, recently traumatized, completely nonverbal. "We heard about your success with selective mutism," the woman explained, her accent thick with exhaustion. "The state services are overwhelmed. We thought maybe—" "Of course," I said immediately, kneeling to Anya's level. Recognition sparked something in me. This child needed help. Needed someone who understood silence. Security checked her paperwork. Scanned her belongings. Found nothing suspicious. Just a scared little girl with a worn backpack and eyes too old for her face. I should have known. Should have been more careful. But how do you turn away a child who needs you? The session went well. Anya responded to art therapy like Luca had, cautiously, but with genuine interest. I spoke to her in the Russian I'd learned for my immigrant patients, and something flickered in her expression. Understanding, maybe trust. 2 days later, during our second session, everything went wrong. The ventilation system hissed wrong. I noticed it first. A chemical smell. Too sweet. Too heavy. My training kicked in faster than thought. "Everyone out!" I shouted to the staff in the main area. "Gas! Get the children!" But my legs were already weakening. Anya collapsed first, small body crumpling. I crawled toward her, trying to cover her face with my sleeve. Darkness swallowed everything. I woke to rope burns and terror. A warehouse. Brooklyn, maybe. Based on the industrial sounds filtering through cracked windows. Anya beside me, whimpering, her small hand gripping mine with desperate strength. "It's okay," I whispered in Russian, forcing calm into my voice despite the panic clawing my throat. "We're going to be fine. I promise." 3 guards rotated watches. Professionals, but bored. They'd been told we were bargaining chips, nothing more. They didn't see us as threats. That was their mistake. I'd grown up in Brooklyn, learned to pick locks with a hairpin when I was 12 and locked myself out. The muscle memory returned as I worked the rope binding my wrists, fingers trembling but steady enough. Anya watched with wide eyes as I freed first myself, then her. "When I say run," I breathed in Russian, "you run to the back door. Don't look back. Understand?" She nodded. This brave little girl who'd been through too much already. The guard's lighter sat on a crate near scattered newspapers. Careless. Fatal. I created the distraction we needed. Smoke, billowing thick and black toward the ceiling, triggering whatever survival instincts these men had. In the chaos, Anya ran. I followed, praying Adriano had people tracking us, praying the smoke would be visible, praying we'd survive long enough to matter. The assault came minutes later. Professional, brutal, efficient. Sergio found us huddled behind a dumpster 2 blocks away, wrapped us in blankets, rushed us toward waiting vehicles. "Where's Adriano?" I demanded, voice hoarse from smoke. "Finishing it," Sergio said grimly. "You don't want to see that part, Elena. Trust me, he was right." I didn't. The hospital was sterile and safe and smelled like antiseptic instead of fear. They checked us both. Minor smoke inhalation, dehydration, shock, but alive. We were alive. Luca burst into the examination room an hour later, Sophia right behind him, both of them pale and shaking. "Mama!" He launched himself at me, sobbing into my chest. "Papa said bad men took you. I was scared. So scared. I'm here, baby. I'm okay." I held him with one arm, the other around Anya, who hadn't left my side. "We're both okay." Then Adriano appeared in the doorway, and the world stopped. Blood on his clothes. Exhaustion in every line of his body. But alive. He was alive. "It's done," he said quietly. "Alexei is dead. The threat is eliminated." I nodded, unable to speak past the relief choking me. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gathered all of us, me, Luca, even Anya, into arms that shook with the aftermath of violence I'd never see, but would always feel the weight of. 2 weeks later, I stood in family court with a lawyer Adriano had hired. Anya's case was complicated. She'd been used by the Bratva, traumatized, orphaned twice over, but I wanted her. Needed to give this child the safety she deserved. Temporary guardianship granted, the judge said. Adoption proceedings can begin, but understand, this will take time. Extensive background checks, home studies, probably a year or more. "We have time," I said, looking at Anya, who sat between Luca and me, small hands gripping both of ours. "We have all the time she needs." 14 months vanished like water through fingers. Months of therapy for Anya, watching her slowly find her voice. Months of Luca becoming the protective older brother she needed. Months of building routines and trust in something that felt impossibly like normal family life. The clinic thrived. 300 children on our roster now, with staff I'd trained personally. My dream made real by a man who'd killed to protect it. And through it all, love. So much love it sometimes felt like drowning in the best possible way. I stood in our bedroom, 2-week-old Leonardo sleeping in my arms, and watched through the window as Adriano played with Luca and Anya in the garden below. My husband had stepped back from operations, letting Sergio handle most of the business. He wanted to be present. To be the father he'd learned how to be because I'd shown him it was possible. "Mama," Luca's voice drifted up. "Anya said her first joke. Come here." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Yesterday, the adoption had been finalized. Anya Moretti Bellavita. Our daughter. Officially. Finally. That night, all of us gathered around the dining table. Adriano, me with Leonardo, Luca chattering about school, Anya practicing new words with Sophia's patient encouragement. Normal. Impossible. Ours. "What are you thinking?" Adriano asked, catching my distant expression. I looked at my family. At the boy who'd found his voice. At the girl who'd found her home. At the baby who represented futures we'd fought wars to protect. At the man who'd taught me that love and darkness could coexist. That I'd do it all again. I said quietly. Every terrifying moment. Every impossible choice. Because it led here. To this. He reached across the table, took my hand. His wedding ring caught the light. Matched mine, simple gold, inscribed with Italian words that meant, through darkness, light. "I love you," he said. Not a confession anymore, just truth. "I love you too. All of you." Luca and Anya giggled at something Sophia said. Leonardo made soft sleeping sounds. And Adriano looked at me like I'd hung the moon, when really, we'd both just survived the night long enough to see dawn. This was our happily ever after, built on impossible foundations, defended with blood and sacrifice, but ours completely. And I wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that brought us here. Not one.